Okay. In this second video, I'm going to go through your Certificate in Digital Applications Unit 1 Developing Web Products exam. So you'll be sitting this on May the 13th this year. So I'm going to go through one of the other previous past papers. This one is the Recycle Drive, which is a community recycling website, or a government recycling website. So you're required to make 5 pages: a home page, a benefits of recycling page, and a page on recycling in general. The last page needs to link to paper recycling and another page about composting. So you'll have access on your candidate area, which will say CiDA exam and then a number, to all the software you need. So Dreamweaver, Fireworks, Photoshop, Word and Chrome. The first step you need to take is to open Dreamweaver. So this is the most important thing that you need to remember when you sit the CiDA exam. You must define your site. So click Site, go to New Site, give it a name. So this is the Recycle, or CiDA, the Recycle Drive, and you must point to the folder where your assets are. So from computer, you will have a candidate area. This will say CiDA exam with the number again. It will likely say N, not E, so the drive letter will be different, but you need to go inside your candidate area. That is what you need to select as the website directory, so the local root folder. Okay, so I'm going to click Save. I'm going to press OK to that because you don't need to worry about that. And then my next step is to make my home page. So I'm going to click Create New HTML. Straight away, once again, I'm going to save it. I'm going to call it index.html. I'm going to look back at the brief. Generally, the things are the same as my last video on Fortune's Radio. The website must fit within this a screen of these dimensions. You must have a colour scheme. This time it's not a lively colour scheme, but it's a colour scheme that reflects the environmentally friendly theme of the campaign. So you need to think, you make an association here. This website is about recycling. What kind of colours go with recycling? So we're talking about greens, different shades of green. We're talking about brown, maybe blue. Think of your recycling bins at home. Think about adverts about recycling. So again, we have a text file, or a rich text format file that has information. So let's get up that now. So in the assets folder, info.rtf, this has all text that you can use. Just copy and paste straight onto the web pages. Just going to close that error. Okay, so again we have to do accessibility features, so the contrast must be good, the text can't be too small, you must be able to see things, you must add alt text on your images, and most importantly a consistent design. So once again what we're going to do in order to meet this last criteria is we need to make the home page first and perfect it, make sure it's working, and then we will go about copying the home page to make a template for the other pages. So again, you must make a banner with a link including the campaign logo. So what I'm going to do to fulfill that is open Photoshop. Again, I know that my banner must stretch the full, or extend the full width of the page, so therefore I know that the width is going to be 1024 pixels. So I'm going to make a new canvas, going to make sure that this is set to pixels, 1024. This time I'm going to make a slightly smaller banner. So I'm going to choose 170. Just use your brain basically. So think what proportions does the banner need to have. So I'm going to put some text in this time. I'm going to say the Recycle Drive. Woo, the Recycle Drive. Make sure I'm using a colour. Whoops. I'm going to set it to a nice green, I think. I'm going to use a font that represents what I'm talking about. So it's going to be quite a mature font, I guess, for this one. I'm going to make it nice. I'm going to make it even bigger than this. So let's try 110. That's going to be a little bit too big because I'm going to have to fit my logo on. So once again, do not spend too much time on this banner. Another thing I'm going to employ, another technique I'm going to employ is going to be to add a strap line. So I'm going to think of something catchy. I'm not going to put it in size 14 font, I'm going to use 38 will be good. So it's going to say recycle for a better future. And I'm going to make this a different colour green. And I'm going to put this in, if it allows me to. Oh, maybe I'll use a different font. So I was looking for italics there. But maybe I'll use a font such as this. I'm going to put it in the bottom right. So now my next step, as it says in the brief, is to add in the campaign logo. So I need to navigate to the assets folder and I need to look for where that logo might be. So inside images, I can see it's always going to be logo.png or something similar. So I can just drag and drop it onto Photoshop, wait for Photoshop to open and place it on the page. Okay, so that was actually a really good fit. Oh, I can move it down. I can see that my text is a little bit too large. So I'm going to move my text over just to make sure that this fits. And I'm going to move my strap line. Okay, now I'm going to go about, I don't know, adding a gradient to the background maybe. So it's going to be a kind of pale green to white. I like that colour. Or I might do it sideways. Or I might even do a circle. Okay, I'm happy with that for what we need to do. So I'm just going to add some text effects. So again, right-click the layer, go to blending options. So I'll just show you again. So right-click the layer, go to blending options. This time I'm going to do a shadow, I think. So I'm going to make sure my shadow stands out. Make the distance quite big. Turn the opacity up to get it nice and dark. And I'm going to make sure my little strap line at the bottom stands out, so I'm going to put a glow around the edge of this. Make sure it's on hard light. And then with my whole thing I'm going to copy the background. I'm just going to give it a nice border, so I'm just going to choose a stroke. But I'm going to set it to the inside and I'm going to put it on green. I'm just going to make sure that my other elements don't conflict with the border, so I'll just move them over a bit. Something along those lines I'm happy with. So now I'm going to use File to save for web and devices. Make sure it's set to PNG and 8. This keeps the file size nice and small. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to navigate to the Assets folder and save my image in there as banner. Okay, switch over to Dreamweaver, drop the banner in. Remember to add the alt text, so I'm going to say banner for the recycle drive. Okay, now I need to make sure that I do my link. So this is an external link to this website, the website that they give you. So www.therecycledrive.gov.uk. So I'm going to make sure the banner's selected in the link box, www.therecycledrive.gov.uk. So when I test that in the browser, if you click that, it's going to go to that external website. It's not actually going to work because it's not a real website. All you have to show is that the link is associated with the banner. Okay, so my next step, I'm going to start going about doing my colour theme. I think for this one I might leave the background quite a nice pale colour. So I'm going to use a kind of pale green sort of colour, like this one. I'm going to make sure that my page font is something nicer than Times New Roman. This time I'm going to use Palatino, Linotype. So I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger, make sure the text is black. Just kind of settle for that for now. Okay, so the next step now is to have a think about doing my navigation bar. So here's where you have to read this clearly because it's slightly different to the last example, to Fortune's radio. So it says a navigation bar linking to the home page, the benefits of recycling page, and the recycling page. The navigation bar should include the home page, the benefits and recycle icons from the image folder for the buttons. Each icon should be 60 by 60. Each icon will need to be edited to create a rollover button. So I need to look for those icons in the assets menu. So I can see that I've got something called benefits icon.png. I've got something called recycle icon. and I've got something called homepage icon. So what I'm going to do now is, rather than double click them, because that will open them with fireworks and I'm using Photoshop, I'm going to go open with Photoshop and get all 3 of these files open. So straight away I can see a sort of anomaly. I can see that one is much bigger than the others. So hold on a minute, didn't it say each icon should be 60 by 60 pixels? So let me check the size of them. So this is 60 by 60, as is this one, but there's a problem with this one, with the recycle icon. I can see that it's 90 by 90. So simply let's fix this now. Okay, so 60 by 60, and I'm going to save. So what it wants you to do is to create rollover buttons, for which you need to have an original state and a rollover state. So when your mouse goes over the button, it's going to do something like get bigger or change colour. So the simplest one to do is a colour change for this. So I'm going to make sure that all of my buttons have a nice highlight when they're selected. So I'm just going to get a nice green colour. I'm going to fill in the backgrounds of each of the ones. So now it's really important that you don't save. You need to save a copy of each of these, because we want the original state and we need the rollover state for the mouse to show when the mouse is over it. So I'm going to use Save for Web and Devices. I'm going to press Save, and I'm going to call this one Recycle Icon Hover. I'm going to do the same again for each of the other ones. So at the end you should have 6 images, 6 image files for the buttons, 2 for each. Okay, so I'm going to use a table once again to house my navigation. I'm going to make my table 1 row and 3 columns. I'm going to make sure it's 1024 pixels wide. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use a percentage this time. So I'm going to say it should be 50%. Or in fact 40% of whatever the page should be. I'm going to have a go at making, so I'm just going to click the CSS down here and call this center. Ooh, maybe I'm not going to do that. It doesn't like me centering those images. Okay, instead of doing that, I'm going to use an absolute position div again, and I'm going to put it in the middle because I don't want a big navigation that stretches across the whole page. So I'm going to get my AP div, and then I'm going to put a table inside it. So here I'm just going to say the table should be 100% of the thing that contains it. 1 row, 3 columns. Just going to put it in nice and easy. So this is where I'm going to put my rollover images in. So I want you to watch really carefully now. I'm going to say insert image objects rollover image. Okay, the name of the rollover image. This first one is going to be homepage button. So the original image, what should show when the mouse isn't on the button? So I need to find that file, recycle icon. I need to find what should show the rollover image when the mouse is on it. Oop, hold on, I did the wrong one. It's not recycle icon, it is homepage icon. When the mouse is on the homepage icon, it should show homepage icon hover. The alternative text would be click button to go to homepage. And this bit is important. This is your hyperlink. So I need to think, what is the name of my file? Index.html. Okay, so then your button should show. I'm going to do the same thing again for the other 3 images. So insert rollover image. This one is going to be recycling button. So I'm going to use the recycle icon. I'm going to take the edited version, the alt text, so click to go to the recycling page. And this time I need to think. I haven't yet made my other pages, but I need to premeditate. I need to think, what am I going to call those pages? So a nice easy name, recycling.html, but I just need to remember that because when it comes to copying my homepage, I must use exactly the same file names. Otherwise you're going to have loads of issues with hyperlinks not working. Right, so I'm just going to do one last one. So this is the benefits of recycling button. So if you forget what these should be, you just need to refer back to the site requirements where it tells you what the pages should be called. And now I am going to find the last one, which was benefits. So to go to the benefits of recycling page, and this time the page is going to be called benefits.html. Okay? So once I've got them in, they should be arranged quite neatly. At this point in time, I can test my page. So File, Preview in Browser, Chrome, or you can just press F12 on the keyboard, and then I should be able to see what my website looks like so far. So you need to remember that the resolution it shows you in is a bit too big for some monitors. So this, what I'm showing you now, is a 1024 width. So I can have a look. I can see that when I hover over the buttons work. If I click on one, I'm going to get an error because I haven't yet made these pages. But what's important is that you've got your rollover links working. Okay, so back in Dreamweaver, my next step now is to add some content for the home page. So I'm going to insert another, well in fact I'm going to use two, I think. I'm going to use two AP divs. One is going to hold some text, and the other is going to hold some images. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick scan through what needs to be on the home page. What does it say in the brief? So something about the composting page. So once again, it doesn't actually specify what should be on the home page apart from this top tips image. Okay, so right now I'm going to have a look in the info file and I'm going to see if I can find some text that is appropriate to put on the home page. So anything that's kind of introductory. So I might take these first three lines, I'm going to copy them, I'm going to paste them into my box. Okay. So straight away I'm going to make this link into an email link because one of the requirements is that add an email link for further information. The email address is found in the text file. So to make an email link I need to type mail to, and then I need to put in whatever the email address is. So the important bit is writing mail to and then your little colon. And this says to the browser, open the email client to write the email. So I'm going to change this to, for further information, please email. I'm going to put that down at the bottom. I'm not going to use this, I'm going to change this to home page. And I'm going to make this little bit a header, or a heading rather. Ooh, I've got a little issue of that not working. Delete that. Okay, good. So now I'm going to think about putting some images in. So I'm going to end up using two images, so I'm going to put another table in here. I'm just going to say this time I want 2 columns. One of my images is going to go here, so I'm just going to find a suitable image. But at this point we need to remember, as always in these exams, they try and trick you. So they will give you loads of images that aren't actually appropriate for using in the format that they provide you. So it says images must be in PNG format and each individual image must be less than 300 KB. So I'm going to look now, I can see which images are less than 300 KB, which are PNG files, and I'm going to choose one for the home page that I can use. So I quite like this symbol one, so I'm going to put in symbol for the recycle drive. I'm going to make it small enough so I can fit on my other content when I need to. So it's really important, once again, hold shift, only use the corner anchor. Okay. Once I've done that, I should now be able to put that back there. So I like the layout so far. So I'm going to address that other issue of where it told me something else that I definitely need to put on the home page. So it says, from the top tips image, which can be found in the images folder, choose one of the top tips to create a graphical link that shows only your chosen top tip. Links to an image showing all the top tips is included on the home page. So what it's telling me to do here is to open this file called top tips, and it wants me to extract one of these top tips, just like with the Fortunes radio practice, and save that as a separate file. So I'm just going to get the crop one, I'm going to get this one, and I'm going to say save, and I'm going to call this top tip cropped. Do not overwrite the original top tips image, because this will hinder you in the rest of the exam. What it's asking you to do is create a graphical link that links to an image showing all the top tips. So I'm going to refresh my files, I'm going to put in the cropped top tips, drag it in here, so I'm going to say click to view more top tips, and with it selected I now need to make it a link to the original top tips file. So I just need to drag and drop the file into the link box, and then this will work. So I'm going to save. I'm just going to put a little bit of help text from my user, so click the image above to see more top tips. At this point I'm going to test my website. I'm going to check that it looks okay in the browser, that I'm happy with the layout of these images. So I'm quite happy with this. If I click this, it should work. It should link to an image showing all of the top tips. I think at this point in time, I'm just going to make sure that I put this, the recycle drive, the title of my website. I think I'm happy now to start making the other pages. So I'm going to use File, Save As. Remember what you called your other pages when you made your links. It's really important that you stick to these file names. So I need recycling, a benefits page, and going back to the further two, I need a paper page and a composting page. So I'm going to use save and then just file save as. So I want a benefits.html page. I need to have a recycling.html page. I'm going to have one called composting, so I haven't made a link to this yet, but I will do soon. And the final one is paper.html. Okay, so once again you can test your website now, so the links will no longer be broken. You will see that the pages are changing, but the pages all look the same because you've just duplicated your home page. So now we need to start thinking about the next page that it mentions. So this is the so I'm going to actually do the composting page now. So it wants me to include compost.png from the images folder on the composting page. It wants me to include appropriate information about composting, and it wants me to edit the code, although I'm not actually going to do that. I'm just going to use Dreamweaver to position the right of the image on the right of the text, and that the text, make the text wrap around the image. So I'm going to look for this compost PNG image now. The first thing I noticed is that it's actually way too big to put on the website. So I'm going to need to use Photoshop to sort it out. It cannot be 5.59 megabytes because this will mean that you lose marks in other parts of the examination. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. I'm just going to open this in Photoshop. And I can see just by going to image size that this is going to be way too big. We can't have something that is 2,000 pixels wide if my website can be a maximum of 1,024 pixels wide. So I'm going to think about this. On the page, I want it to be about half, maybe a little bit less. So I'm going to turn it into 400. You will see that the height changes automatically. So I've made my image a lot smaller. Use the zoom to check print size or actual pixels, and you see that it's still quite a nice size. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it save for web and devices to make sure that we can get the file size not down, you see where my mouse is, not 312, because that's still too big. We need to make it even smaller. So this is again what we've been doing before. Make sure you're using PNG 8, and what PNG 8 does is it agrees to use less colours. You don't notice a difference, but it's a less kind of shades of a colour to allow the file size, you can see down here, to be much smaller. So 67 kilobytes is perfect. I'm going to click save, and I'm going to make sure, as good practice always says, to not rename, to not overwrite. I need to rename the file to something else. So I'm going to call it compost edit. Okay, so right now I'm going to delete So I'm going to go to the compost page first of all, that's quite important. I'm going to change this to composting. I'm going to delete some of the content that I don't want anymore, which actually is going to include this table. So you might have to right click to delete a table, it's sometimes quite tricky. Ah, it's not like that. How do I delete the table? Ah, there we go, so you have to click it by the side. So now if I refresh my files, I can put in my edited compost image, and I'm going to be compost in your garden. Remember, use descriptive alternate text. This fulfills the criteria of adding accessibility features for visually impaired users, because if they cannot see the image, the software that they use will read out your alt text and they will be able to access your website even though they might have issues with their site. Okay, so that's going to go in now. So I might want to now think about what text goes with composting. So I'm just going to have a look on here. Sludge. Okay, as an avid composter myself, I understand what all this means, but you might struggle with some elements of this, because if it's something that you don't necessarily know about, such as recycling, it's quite hard to decode what part of the text goes on what page. You don't need to worry about it too much. If you get something mixed up, it's not a big deal. So I'm going to take this text and I'm going to place it on the compost page. So I've got some good information about compost. Just going to tidy it up a little bit. I can see that these things probably would look better with bullet points. So at this point I can see that I can rearrange some of my elements. So still keeping with a consistent design, I'm just going to make some of the borders slightly wider for these elements so that it all fits nicely on the page. Just preview it again. I'm happy with the way this looks. I've added alt text. I've fulfilled the requirements of the composting page. Okay, so the next step, it says, I've done the compost, I've done the top tips, we're getting there. So now it says, edit the image landscape.bmp provided in the images folder to include the Recycle Drive logo and add some additional appropriate text that you have written. Place the edited image on the benefits of recycling page. The edited image must be in PNG format. So I've got a sneaky feeling now, when we load up this landscape file, oh, there we go, it's not in the right file format, so it's actually in a BMP format, which can never be used on websites. So I'm just going to double click it and it will open in Photoshop, and again I can see that it's going to be way too big for the page, 2000 pixels, that's too big, so this time I'm going to use 500. Again, use the zoom to make it go back to the size it was. Oop. Sorry, the magnification it was. So now what I need to do is similar to the start with the banner. I need to find the logo in the assets folder and drag and drop it in. So if I can drag it into Photoshop, I can place the logo onto the page. So I'm going to press enter. This is way too big. We can't have it covering the whole thing. So I'm just going to do a quick edit, transform, scale, or just Control and T. Make sure you hold Shift just like in Dreamweaver, and make sure the logo is not too big. Okay? So the next part of this is that it wants me to add some additional appropriate text that you have written. So if you get something like this in the actual exam, you need to look at the image. What do you think they want you to say? What is this image showing? So something that I thought, you've got green grass, you've got a bright kind of sunshine, so it's something like recycle for a better future. Obviously I can't see this, it doesn't look very good. I'm just going to change it to white, and I'm going to use a better font than the one that I've got. So I'm going to make this bit of the text a little bit bigger. Again, I'm going to add some layer styles, so I don't just want it to be white like that. I'm going to use a glow. This time I'm going to use quite a dark green. I think this would look good. Make sure I've got it set to hard light so I can see the effects. Good, that's making the text stand out a little bit. And the final thing I'm going to do is just add quite a dark stroke to it. Press OK. So now I want to save again, save my edited copy. I press save. This time I'm going to make sure again that it's set to PNG8 so we can get the file size down. You can see here it's 77. We must give it a new file name. Don't overwrite the original one. Landscapeedit.png, which is good. Now I'm going to switch back to Dreamweaver, and it tells me that this should go on the benefits of recycling page. So if I look at the benefits of recycling page, again I'm going to get rid of this content that I no longer want, and this is where I'm going to put my edited landscape.png file. So recycle for a better future. I meant to say brighter there actually, but it doesn't matter too much. This page is going to be called Benefits of Recycling. I'm going to go straight back to my text page. I'm going to find what is the bit that talks about why people should recycle. Looks good. This looks like some important information. So I've noticed here now actually that this stuff can probably go on the home page, or that's going to go on the recycling page in fact. So I'm going to go about now taking the text and putting it on the relevant pages and changing some of these headings. So recycling, I'm going to paste the text. I'm going to get rid of these images because I'm going to put something else in later. Again, I'm going to change these to bullet points because I don't like the way that they've put stars on. So this first one shouldn't be a bullet point. So I'm going to make that into heading 3, I think. Or in fact, heading 4 would probably be better. Let's delete this. Now I'm going to think what needs to be on my paper page. So go back to the info.text, scan through it quickly, find the bit that's about paper. So I can see here there's something about paper, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver, I'm going to paste it in. I'm going to delete these images, get rid of my table, because I just want one image on this page, and I know there's going to be an image in the assets folder that is perfect. I can see it's paper.png, it's got a file size of 146 KB, so it's perfect. I'm going to drop it right in, I'm going to put the title as paper, recycling. There we go. So again, I'm just going to resize some of the elements to make it fit. Make sure everything fits on the page. Move it over a little bit. F12, have a look. Looks perfect to me. So I've got the benefits of recycling. I've got the recycling page. So let's have a look what it asked me to do next. So the video.mov included within the assets folder should be embedded on a suitable page retaining its 4:3 ratio. So if I have a look at my pages so far, there's definitely one that looks a bit bare. So this recycling page. So this looks like an appropriate place to put the video. So I'm going to delete the table. I'm going to find the video in the assets folder, or just outside, just above the assets, above the images folder. I can see here movie.mov. A MOV file is always going to be a video file. If I drag and drop it in, what I get is something called an applet. Okay, so it's a bit confusing. Dreamweaver doesn't know automatically how this stuff should work. It doesn't know what dimensions to give the movie. Okay, so there is something here, video file to remain in MOV format. So we need to find out a little bit more information about this file format. So if I look at it in Windows Explorer, so I'm going to find the movie file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to properties. If I go to details, I should be able to find out how big this video is in terms of dimensions. So I can see that the width is 420 and the height is 336. So if I go back to Dreamweaver, I can change these accordingly. 420 and the height is going to be 336. Okay, some of the other requirements regarding the video is that the video should play only on click. So what I need to do this is I need to add a little bit, it's kind of like editing the code, but Dreamweaver will do it for you. So if I go to parameters, and then this is quite a tricky thing to remember. You just need to remember that the parameter is autoplay, and the value you need to set it to is you don't want it to happen, so it needs to be false. Autoplay is false. So again, I'm going to change my elements just to my AP div, just to resize to the image, the video. And then when I test this in the browser now, you may get something along these lines. So the plugin is not supported, but we can see that this is an issue that is something separate than what you're doing. So you just need to take it for granted that it works. I think in school you might have a little pop-up and you might have to press run this time. I'm not sure exactly why this isn't working. I could try in a different browser. Let's see in Firefox if it works. So maybe in Firefox, if I press activate QuickTime, it's good to see that in Firefox my website looks exactly the same. Allow and remember. Okay, the issue is that my version of QuickTime isn't up to date, so I'm not going to do that now, but you just need to take for granted that the video is working, I think, if you get to see that. Okay, so my email link is done. So you can see now I'm getting to the point where I've actually done all of the requirements, all of what you get the holistic marks for, or the non-holistic marks rather. You've met all those requirements already. So if I have a look at my website now, if I test it, is this a finished product? That's the question that you need to ask when you're doing this. So I'm just going to go back to the home page. I'm going to hit F12. I'm going to see what it looks like. So I've got a home page. I've got a recycling page with a video that will work but just isn't working currently. I've got this benefits recycling page with the image edited as they requested it. But now I've got an issue. I've got a further 2 pages that I can't get to. Okay? So if I go back to the page structure, it's telling me that the recycling page needs to link to 2 further pages, a paper page and a composting page. In this brief, it does not specify how you should get there. So if you remember back from the last video, the 14's radio video, it stated you should make thumbnails that connect to the 2 further pages. It does not tell you this, so you need to use your noggin basically and think, how should this show on the web page? So if you go to the benefits or go to the recycling page, you need to make 2 further links. So I'm going to put these above the video, and I'm simply going to say click here to learn about paper recycling, and click here to learn about composting. So I'm not going to do buttons, or I'm not going to do thumbnails. I'm simply going to make these text links. So in here I need to think, what do I write? Oh, I know. It's the file name, which is paper.html. And then here, the same thing again. What did I call the composting page? Well, I called it composting.html. Okay, so now if I test this in the browser, I should be able to see that my links now work. So I can go back to the recycling page, I can go to the composting page. I now have 5 accessible links that follow the format. One thing I'm not happy about is the fact that it's using the default colours for the links. So I'm just going to change these in page properties. I'm going to change the links. I'm going to change the link colour to, I'm going to make it a nice kind of, what goes with green? So I'm going to make it a nice kind of bright pink colour, I think. And when you roll over it, it's going to make it go even a lighter pink. And I'm going to say show underline only on rollover. Okay, so something along those lines is something that I'm happy with. So the last thing to do, we're nearly finished. You have met all of the requirements. You have a working website with 5 pages. Your design is consistent. You don't have any issues. One thing I've just noticed about my consistent design is because I didn't change those link styles to start with, it's not actually going to be the same on each page. So I just need to go through quickly So if you have an issue with this where your website is not working the same on every page, you might have to do a little bit of this. So I'm going to remember that that's 909 and COC. Just going to change each page so that it matches. This stresses the importance of really making all your design decisions before you finish your home page. So I'm just going through these now and checking that every single one has the same rules for the way that the links should be styled. I'm going to do it on this one. Whoops. So again, it needs to be 909, and this one is going to be CC. Okay, no more issues with consistency now. If I go back to Dreamweaver, what I can see, if I reload the page, is that there are no issues. Everything shows the links in pink and purple, just like I want them to. Okay, so there really isn't anything. Just test this. Again, it's not going to work. But, one thing I might need to do there, actually, is... Oh, no, I don't need to worry about that for this, because we don't need to test that. So it states in the mark scheme that you don't need to test that any external links work. Okay, so the last thing I need to do now, just like last time, is to just write my evaluation quickly. So task 2, this is worth 6 marks. Complete an evaluation of your microsite using the document evaluation.doc. So just nice and quickly. Do not spend too long on this. This is a practical exam. You are primarily being tested on your skills at making websites. So explain your important design decisions. I decided to use fonts that represent the page of the website. Background. And make sure to change the styles. Use default color. And make sure all my images have alternate text so that visually justify your choices in relation to the client brief. There were some issues with configuring the video embed. This is due to plugin updates needed on the test PC. I included text to help my users, such as click the image above for ... Suggest if I had more time, I would like to create an animated banner, and I would do more work on adding further content to the website. Can I say anything else? I think it's perfect. Alright, so again, I've finished that in 43 minutes this time, so 5 minutes quicker than the last video. You have much longer. You do not have 45 minutes. You have a total of 150 minutes to your exam. So it's a 2.5 hour practical exam. You will have a lot longer than that. You just need to remember those key points and you will be fine on the day.